that identity, when I say identity, I mean who we are, understanding who we are as individuals
Yeah.
is the engine of everything because it drives how we show up in the world. It drives our beliefs. It drives our philosophies. It drives how we run our business. It drives how we treat people. It drives how we show up in relationship and all those different things. And I'm curious, and I'm going somewhere with this question. As a kinesiologist shifting to astrology, your identity doesn't necessarily change in terms of who you are as a human, but how you manifest and how you output and how you create shifts. So, how did you go from I'm a kinesiologist offering value to the world to suddenly I'm doing astrology offering value to the world so that you clearly were able to articulate and understand how you wanted to show up in the world?
I'll be honest with you, there was no bridge, there was only a leap. And so one day I walked in, it was actually right at the new year, January of 2010. I walked in and I said, I'm done. And I left. And it was the best leap that I have ever made. And everyone who told me that you need to find a legitimate job or work for somebody else has been proven wrong over the course of the last 15 years.
In terms of astrology and what you do, if you wouldn't mind, could you just break down specifically who do you work with? What type of people do you prefer to work with? What's your zone of genius? When you're delivering this astrology, what exactly are you doing? What are you doing predictions? Are you using models? Is it intuition? Like, talk me through a little bit of some of the work that you do.
Absolutely. So most of my clients are actually entrepreneurs themselves.
Hmm.
So I started off doing, natal chart readings for the general public where people are looking to know thyself. You were talking about your own personal philosophy earlier, Devo, and all I can think of is know thyself, which is the beginning and end of all spiritual knowledge.
Hmm.
And so that was how I initially worked with people. However, colleagues of mine who were looking to start their own, healing businesses or start their own businesses, they saw how I had bloomed and expanded in a relatively short time, and they wanted to know how I did it. So I ended up moving into forecasting, which was the tool that I had been using for myself in the background
Hmm.
where I would look at what are called planetary transits and how they were affecting my own chart. And so there were times where I would use planetary transits to do sales. They're like actual like discount sales, for example. Or there were times where I would use those planetary transits for media and attention, or to reach back and connect with old clients and old customers who I had worked with, where I would use other aspects to go out and do prospecting and look for potential connections and collaborations that I could do. And so those were all things that I had done in the background. And those were ways that I had used astrology as a service-based business. But I also work with product-based businesses as well. And so as people started coming to me wanting to know how I did it, that was when I started journeying into forecasting. And primarily I work with entrepreneurs now. And there's two primary services in which I work with them. And so the first is that I always start off with that natal chart, essentially to know thyself. And the reason that I start off there is because the creator is in the created. Your business, what you put forth in the world, is a reflection of your own nature.
It's not
And
just your business, is it? It's
yeah,
everything, literally. How you treat people, how they treat
yeah.
you back. Everything's just a reflection, isn't it?
And the strengths of your business are really going to be a reflection of your strengths and where you're not as strong in terms of personal wisdom or even necessarily where you pay attention, because sometimes it's not necessarily about a strength, it's about other aspects of your own nature are predominant and demand more attention. And so in those other areas of strength, wisdom, talents, as well as what we could call weaknesses, which are really just unsupported strengths, um, that reflects in how you manage yourself, you manage your business, how you manage your personal life. And this is really important because none of us exists in a vacuum. So things that affect you and your inner being show up within your business, show up in your health, show up in your personal life.
Mhm.
And I mean, as an entrepreneur myself, I understand the struggle because absolutely your business can take over your life. And so sometimes you need that assistance to be able to manage everything and maintain your own sanity in the process.
So this natal chart and knowing thyself in terms of forecasting, reading, I think a lot of people are going to hear astrology and they're going to get this impression of something a little bit woo woo, a little bit spiritual. That's somebody wearing a tin hat, that sort of stuff. So how have you moved away from that impression that most people have for that?
Oh my gosh, whenever I look at Instagram, I don't even bother with TikTok. They've made such a travesty of astrology. And so when I speak to my clients and entrepreneurs, I always refer back to the origins of astrology. So the origins of astrology actually come from a mythological figure who is, an actual figure as well. His name was Hermes Trismegistus.
Hmm.
And Hermes Trismegistus was the founder
I'm
of
reading Toth right
astrology.
now, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Toth as well. Toth was another name by which he was known. And so Hermes Trismegistus invented alchemy, astrology, and theurgy, which was ritual magic. And what many people don't know is that for centuries, royalty, statesmen, military commanders, they all worked with astrologers to assist them in the governance of the kingdom.
Mm.
Because basically, if you're governing a kingdom, kind of like running a business, except just a lot bigger. You still, as an entrepreneur, you have politics, so to speak, in the same way that a kingdom does, in that you need to coordinate with other businesses potentially, as well as your clients. You have potentially supplies that you need. And, that was one of the things that the astrologer would often provide guidance to with the king in terms of what kind of weather are we going to be expecting this year? What kind of alliances can we make? Is there conflict, which if we adapt that to a business situation, we would call competition. What's the competition like? Can we make strategic partnerships and alliances? Are we going to have supply issues this year? And so astrologers served statesmen, military commanders, and royalty for hundreds of years. Alexander the Great, he had Aristotle at his side. Aristotle was an astrologer
Mm.
who had been guiding him and pointing out the blind spots in his own nature to ensure that his own nature didn't become the downfall of his kingdom.
You're working and helping founders make smarter moves, more intelligent moves with personality insights, timing, that sort of stuff, using star matrices that are aligned to sort of like you call in our natal charts. Is that sort of a fair assessment?
Yes, that is absolutely a fair assessment.